Doctor, Priya Raman did not raise her voice. She did not rush to the door or reach for the phone right away. She only looked down at the lab sheet in her hand, read the same line twice, then looked at me over the top of her glasses. For 3 seconds. Nobody in that exam room moved. 3 seconds is nothing until an 8-year-old girl is asleep against your ribs and you are holding the reason why. Mr. Price, she said carefully, how long has Emma been drinking these smoothies? Emma had turned 8 4 days earlier. She was supposed to be asking me for extra sprinkles. Not sleeping so hard in a pediatric exam room near the Cleveland Clinic campus that her little hand kept slipping off the stuffed rabbit in her lap. I looked at my granddaughter, then back at the doctor. I don't know, I said. That's why I brought her here. Welcome to Dad's Cold Justice. Comment where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are right now. And if stories about quiet fathers, patient grandfathers, and people finally facing what they deserve are your kind of stories. Subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, but it helps us keep telling them. Now let me take you back 3 hours, because that is how fast an ordinary Tuesday can split a family open. Emma's birthday had been the Friday before, November 8th. I missed it, not because I forgot, and not because I had something better to do. I had been stuck at home in Lakewood with bronchitis, wrapped in a blanket, arguing with a bottle of cough syrup and a thermometer like an old fool. By the time I could drive without coughing my lungs loose, the cake had been cut, the balloons had sagged, and my granddaughter had turned 8 without me at the table. That sat on me. I kept picturing her in that paper birthday crown, looking toward the doorway when the candles were lit, waiting for the grandpa who always showed up. So on Tuesday, November 12th, at about 1:40 inches the afternoon, I put on a clean flannel shirt, loaded a silver gift bag into my truck, and drove from Lakewood across town toward Shaker Heights. The plan was simple: drop off the gift, take Emma out for frozen custard, let her talk until she ran out of breath. I pulled up in front of Nathan and Allison's house off South Woodland Road, little after 2:15. It was one of those brick Shaker Heights houses with old trees, deep windows, and a front walk that always looked swept, even when leaves were falling everywhere else. My son Nathan worked regional sales for a medical equipment company and traveled too much. Allison had built a life around making that house look like a magazine photograph. From the outside, everything looked warm, correct, and expensive. Allison opened the door with wireless earbuds in and her phone in one hand. "Warren," she said, like I was a delivery she had forgotten was coming. I lifted the gift bag. "I'm late, but I came to see the birthday girl." She stepped aside without smiling. "She's in her room. I have a client call in 5. Then she turned and walked toward the kitchen before I had both feet inside. I stood there with the bag in my hand, feeling like a grandfather trying to buy back 4 missed days with tissue paper. Emma's room was upstairs. Second door, after the linen closet. She had taped a crooked sign on it that said, "Emma space. Knock first." I knocked. "Emmy Bean." "It's Grandpa." No answer. I knocked again. Softer. I heard something drag across carpet. Then the door opened, and I felt a cold line run from my throat down into my chest. Emma was standing there, but not the Emma I knew. Her eyes were half open. Her hair was flattened on one side. She smiled late, like the message had to travel too far. "Grandpa," she said. It should have come out bright. It came out slow. I crouched down and kept my face easy, because children read fear faster than adults read words. "Happy late birthday. Sweetheart, you still got room for one more present," she nodded. But she leaned into the doorframe, like the hallway was moving. "I'm tired." I glanced at my watch. It was 2:18 inches the afternoon. "Tired after school." She shook her head. "I didn't go today. Mommy said rest day." I walked into the room and sat on the edge of the bed. She climbed up beside me and opened the gift bag with both hands, slower than any 8-year-old has ever opened a present. Inside was a stuffed white rabbit with a blue ribbon, the one she had pointed at in a store window 2 months earlier, and whispered, "She looks like she keeps secrets." When Emma saw it, the real smile came back for half a second. "Bunny," She said, I'm naming her Marigold. Marigold is a fine name. I said. She hugged the rabbit, then set it beside her pillow with care that felt too grown up for a child. After that, she went quiet. Not bored quiet. Not sleepy quiet. The kind of quiet that means a child is deciding whether the grown-up in the room is safe enough for the truth. I waited. I have learned that with children, silence can be a door. If you push, it shuts. If you sit still, sometimes it opens. Emma put her small hand on my wrist. Grandpa, she whispered, can I stay at your house and have regular milk? I smiled gently. Regular milk. She nodded. Eyes down. Mommy makes mine special at night. She says it helps me be calm. But it makes my arms heavy, and I don't like when I can't wake up. I did not grab her. I did not shout. I did not run downstairs and accuse anyone. I only nodded once. The way you nod when a child hands you a live wire and trusts you not to flinch. Okay, sweetheart, I said. Let's go get that custard. I stood up and held out my hand. You need to understand something about me. I spent 36 years as an electrical foreman in Cleveland schools and public buildings. When power is wrong, you don't always see sparks. Sometimes the lights just dim. Sometimes the room hums different. And the first rule is always the same. Do not touch the wire until you know where the current is coming from. Downstairs, Allison was pacing the kitchen, laughing into her headset. I stood near the doorway and said, I'm going to take Emma for a birthday treat. Just the two of us. She covered the microphone for 1 second. Fine. Don't spoil dinner. Then she went right back to her call. She did not ask where. She did not ask when we'd be back. She did not look at Emma, who was holding Marigold under one arm and blinking like the room was too bright. I buckled Emma into the back seat of my dark green 2011 Toyota Tacoma. She still used a booster, mostly because I insisted, and partly because she said it made her feel like a judge. I pulled away from the curb slowly, then turned toward Cleveland. I did not call Nathan. Not yet. I did not call the police. Not yet. First, I needed someone with a white coat and a lab to tell me whether my fear had a name. The pediatric urgent care I trusted was near the Cleveland Clinic main campus off Euclid Avenue. Emma had been there once before when she had a bad ear infection during a snowstorm. And Dr. Rahman had treated her like a person, not a chart. I walked in with Emma half leaning against my side and told the front desk she was unusually drowsy and might have been given medication without explanation. That was all I said. Enough to get attention. Not enough to start a fire before I knew what was. Burning. Dr. Rahman came in 10 minutes later. She checked Emma's pupils. Pulse. Breathing. Reflexes. And blood pressure. She asked Emma simple questions. What grade are you in? What is your teacher's name? What did you eat today? Emma answered. But each answer arrived late. When the doctor asked whether she took medicine, Emma looked at me first. That look told Dr. Rahman more than the words did. I repeated exactly what Emma had told me about the special milk. Word for word. No decoration. Dr. Rahman's face changed only slightly. Good doctors know how not to frighten children. She ordered urine and blood work, including a toxicology screen and a specific check for antihistamines. The preliminary results may take about an hour. She said, the confirming report can take longer. I nodded. We waited in the small exam room with cartoons playing on mute on the wall monitor. Emma ate 3 crackers, drank water, and then folded into my side. She was asleep in less than a minute. That is when the waiting became hard. I sat still because I was afraid that if I moved, all the anger in me would find somewhere to go. I looked at my granddaughter's face and thought about every time Nathan had said, Emma's been tired lately, and everyone had smiled, like tired was a normal childhood phase. I thought about the birthday party I had missed. I thought about Allison saying rest day as if a child were a laptop with a low battery. And I thought, what if I had waited until Saturday? The door opened after 52 minutes. I know because I counted. Dr. Rahman stepped inside holding a printed sheet. She looked at it, then at Emma, then at me. That was the 3-second silence. Then she said, Mr. Price. How long has Emma been drinking these smoothies? I said. What's in her system? She sat down, turned the sheet so I could read it, and tapped one line with her pen. Diphenhydramine. Children's allergy medicine. The kind people know from Benadryl. At the right dose, for the right reason. It can be useful. Used to make a child sleep. It is something else entirely. Dr. Rahman's words were precise. The level is consistent with repeated dosing, not a single accidental exposure. The final confirmation will tell us more. But this is not a normal finding. I read the line until the letters stopped behaving like letters. Repeated dosing, not accidental. A medicine cabinet word had become a weapon in my granddaughter's milk. Is her mother at home now, doctor? Rahman asked softly. Yes. I am a mandated reporter. I looked at her. I know. She studied my face. Mr. Price, I need to be clear. This has to be reported. I nodded. Give me until tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock. I need to get Emma out of that house and speak to her father with proof he can't deny. She did not like it. I could see that. But she also saw that I was not a man asking for time to hide something. Tomorrow morning, she said at last. If I have not heard from you or your attorney by 8, I make the report myself. Fair, I said. I carried Emma to the truck. Marigold, the rabbit, was tucked under her chin. The drive back to Lakewood took a little more than 20 minutes. And I obeyed every traffic light, like the law itself was sitting in the passenger seat. Emma slept all the way, breathing steadily, one hand curled around that rabbit's blue ribbon. I did not sleep that night. I made coffee. I did not drink. I sat at my kitchen table under the yellow light and wrote everything down. Time I arrived. Allison's behavior. Emma's words. The clinic. Doctor. Rahman's exact phrasing. I wrote it in a spiral notebook, the same way I used to write breaker numbers and panel faults. When something fails, you map the circuit. You do not guess. You trace. What I knew was simple. My granddaughter had been drugged in her own home. What I did not know was why. The why can drive a man crazy if he lets it. I did not let it. At 6:35 Wednesday morning, I called Nathan. I did not tell him everything. A father who hears that his wife may be hurting his child will either become steel or fog. I needed to know which one my son was before I handed him the match. He picked up on the third ring. Voice rough. Dad, everything okay? I kept my tone ordinary. How has Emma been lately? Anything off? There was a pause. Not defensive. Thinking. She's been sleeping more, he said. Allison says it's a growth phase. Or maybe school stress. Growth phase. School stress. Words adults use when they are too tired to look directly at the thing in front of them. Why, he asked. No reason, I said. I missed her birthday. I was thinking maybe she could stay with me for a week. Give me some grandpa time. And you two can breathe a little. He exhaled like I had offered him a gift. She'd love that. Let me check with Allison. He called back at 810. Allison says sure. She said it might help Emma reset. Reset? Like my granddaughter was a phone. I kept my voice steady. I'll pick up clothes this afternoon. After we hung up, I stared at the wall for a long moment. Nathan had seen the dimming lights and accepted somebody else's explanation. That did not make him a bad father. It made him an overworked one who had trusted the wrong person. Atnoa Trezic. I was in the office of Evelyn Hart, a family attorney in downtown Cleveland whose name I still had from a property issue after my wife died. Evelyn was small, silver-haired, and direct enough to make most men sit straighter. I put the clinic papers, my notes, and photos of Emma asleep in the exam room on her desk. She read in silence. When she looked up, the temperature in the room seemed to change. Warren, this is child endangerment, she said. Possibly more, depending on proof and duration. I need Emma safe, I said, and I need Nathan not to talk himself out of the truth. Evelyn nodded once. Then we document before we confront. Medical records, pharmacy purchases, school absences, witness notes, anything showing a pattern. You need to remove the child today if the mother allows it. You also need a private investigator. Quietly, she slid a card across the desk. Dante Brooks, former county investigator. Licensed. Discreet. He doesn't do drama, she said. He does timelines. By 1:00 that afternoon, I was back in Shaker Heights. Emma's backpack was sitting by the front door. Allison had packed 3 shirts, pajamas, and exactly 1 pair of socks. She did not come outside. Emma walked down the steps, holding Marigold and wearing a pink jacket zipped wrong. I fixed the zipper while she watched my hands. "Are we really going to your house?" she asked. "For a while," I said. "Can I have cereal for dinner?" "If the judge approves it," I said. She smiled. "A real one. At my house." The first thing she asked for was plain milk. I poured it into a clear glass and set it in front of her. She stared at it for a moment before taking a sip. That small hesitation told me more than any adult confession would have. Children should not have to inspect a drink from someone who loves them. That night she slept in the guest room under a quilt my wife had made 20 years earlier, with the door cracked and Marigold tucked under her arm. Natural sleep looks different. I can tell you that now. Dante Brooks called me Thursday at 5:12 m. "Mr. Price, we should meet." "What did you find?" "Enough that I don't want to say it over the phone. We met at a diner in Ohio City, near West 25th. The kind of place with vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like it has been awake longer than you have." Dante was a broad man with calm eyes and a gray wool cap. He slid a folder across the table without ceremony. Inside were photographs, receipts, screenshots, and a timeline. Allison with a man named Cole Bennett, 41 years old, real estate developer, married, too polished, too comfortable, too used to rooms adjusting around him. Hotel check-ins downtown, a short-term rental in Tremont, dinner receipts from nights Nathan had been in Columbus, Indianapolis, or Pittsburgh, 8 months confirmed, maybe longer. I looked at the photos once and closed the folder because the anger in me had teeth. "Does he know about Emma?" I asked. Dante stirred his coffee. "He knows she exists. He has complained about her calling during their evenings. In one text, Allison says she has a way to make bedtime easy." He paused. I printed it. I opened the folder again. There it was. Easy bedtime. 2 small words dressed like convenience. That was the part that made my stomach turn. Not rage. Convenience. Emma had not been punished. She had been moved out of the way. "Any sign Nathan knows, no." Dante said, "From what I can see, he is exactly what he appears to be. Traveling, working, believing his house is still a house." I sat there in that diner with the folder under my hand and let myself feel sorry for my son for exactly 10 seconds. Then I stopped. Pity does not protect children. Evidence does. I paid the check, thanked Dante, and told him to keep building the timeline. Dates, times, purchases, every location. No gaps. Friday afternoon. Evelyn called. She had traced pharmacy purchases through records Nathan could legally access from the family account and loyalty program. Children's diphenhydramine bought 7 times in 5 months. Different stores. Shaker Heights, Beechwood, Cleveland Heights. Always small bottles. Always card purchases. Always Allison's phone number on the receipt profile. "It is not everything," Evelyn said, "but it is a pattern." I looked through the guest room door at Emma coloring. On the floor, "It's enough to start." I called Nathan and told him to come to dinner. I did not say why. He arrived at 6:45 inches, his Navy company car, looking tired but pleased to see Emma's backpack by the stairs. I had made meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. That was my son's hard news meal. He did not know that. I had made it when he crashed his first car, when his mother got sick, when he lost a job at 27 and pretended he was fine. A father has rituals his children never notice until later. Emma ate early and fell asleep, watching a nature show in the guest room. I made sure she was settled before I brought Nathan to the kitchen table. He was smiling at something she had said about otters when I put the first folder in front of him. Medical report. Then pharmacy records. Then Dante's folder. I sat across from him and said nothing. A man can argue with another man. It is harder to argue with paper that has dates on it. Nathan picked up the medical report. His face did not break. It emptied. He read the first page. Then the second. He set it down with both hands flat on the table. "What is this?" he asked. His voice was already smaller. "Read the rest," I said. He picked up the pharmacy records, then the photos. He opened Dante's folder and saw Allison outside the Tremont rental with Cole Bennett's hand on her back. He looked at that picture for a long time. But when he spoke, he did not ask about the man. "Did she give Emma medicine?" he asked. There it was. The father underneath the husband. "The preliminary test says repeated diphenhydramine exposure." I said, "Doctor, Rumman is filing the report. Evelyn is ready." Nathan stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. Then he stopped, put both hands on the back of the chair, and bowed his head. I thought he might shout. He didn't. He walked to the sink, gripped the counter, and stared out the dark window over my backyard. He stayed that way for almost 9 minutes. I know because the clock above the stove ticked loud enough to count. When he turned around, his eyes were red, but his voice was steady. "Does Emma know?" "She knows the milk made her heavy and she didn't like it." He nodded. "Good. That's all she needs for now." Then he sat down and pulled the medical report closer. "How long have you had this?" "Since Tuesday." He looked at me. Hurt flashed across his face. Then understanding followed it. "You waited to bring me proof," he said. "I waited so denial wouldn't have anywhere to stand." He let out one hard breath. Not quite a laugh. "You mapped the circuit before you cut the power." "Old habit," I said. He pressed his hands together and stared at the table. "Give me Evelyn's number." That was the moment I knew he would not become fog. He had become steel. Nathan did not confront Allison that night. He wanted to. Every bone in his body wanted to drive to Shaker Heights and tear the truth out of the walls. Evelyn told him no. So did I. Unger is loud, but custody is won with clean hands. He stayed at my house that weekend. He took Emma to the park by Lake Erie. He made pancakes with too many chocolate chips. He watched her drink plain milk without flinching by Sunday morning. And I watched my son quietly understand how much he had missed. On Monday, November 18th, after Emma was at school and safe, Nathan drove home. He had already moved essential documents, photographed the medicine cabinet, downloaded bank statements, and spoken with Evelyn twice. He entered that kitchen in Shaker Heights at 920 A.M. Allison was at the island, laptop open, coffee in one of those white mugs with a gold handle she used for pictures. She looked up and smiled like the world had not already ended. "You're back early," she said. Nathan sat across from her and placed the medical report on the island. She looked down. Her smile went away slowly. "What is this?" she asked. "You tell me." She scanned the page, and then she made her first mistake. She started explaining before she asked what he knew. Emma was restless. She said, "I was exhausted. You were gone all the time. It was just a little allergy medicine. Nathan, people use it. I never meant to hurt her." He placed the pharmacy records next to the report. 7 purchases. 5 months. Different stores. Her hand went to her mouth. Then he placed 3 photographs on top of the records. Allison and Cole outside the downtown hotel. Allison and Cole walking into the Tremont rental. Allison's car parked there after midnight. She did not touch those photos. She stared at them as if they were something dirty someone else had brought into her clean kitchen. "I trusted you," Nathan said. His voice stayed low. "With my daughter. With my home. With my name. You used all 3. Allison began crying then, but it came too late and aimed in the wrong direction. "I was lonely," she said. "You were never here. I felt like I was disappearing." Nathan stood up. "Emma was the one disappearing. Every night you made her heavy so you could leave." Allison reached for him. He stepped back. "Are you taking my child from me?" she asked. Nathan looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said. "You already did that." Then he walked out and closed the door behind him, with the kind of softness that cuts deeper than a slam. The report was filed. Cuyahoga County Child Services opened an investigation. Evelyn filed for emergency temporary custody that same week. Dr. Rahman provided the medical record. Dante provided the timeline. The pharmacy records provided the pattern. Allison provided the explanation that buried her. People think justice looks like a shouting match in a driveway. Sometimes it does. But most of the time, real justice looks like a courthouse hallway. A tired father in a suit. A grandfather holding a stuffed rabbit in a plastic bag because the child asked him to keep it safe. It looks like waiting for your name to be called. It looks like a judge reading quietly while everyone in the room pretends not to breathe. Emergency custody went to Nathan first. 67 days later. After hearings, interviews, medical confirmation, and the kind of paperwork that makes a person feel old. Nathan was granted primary custody. Allison received supervised visitation, pending the criminal case and counseling requirements. Her attorney tried stress. He tried loneliness. He tried the pressure of parenting alone during Nathan's travel. Evelyn answered with Emma's lab results, the purchase records, the school, absence, and Allison's own text about making bedtime easy. Cole Bennett cooperated as soon as investigators contacted him. Men like that always do. He handed over messages, dates, and hotel records, not because he grew a conscience, but because self-preservation is the only religion cowards practice faithfully. His wife learned enough. His business partners learned enough. The polished man in the photos suddenly found rooms were no longer adjusting around him. The house in Shaker Heights was sold before spring. The front walk stayed unswept during the last month. Allison lived there. The wreath disappeared. The social media account went quiet. No announcement. No graceful quote about new chapters. Just silence. Moving boxes. And a lockbox on the front door. That is how curated lives often end. Not with thunder. With a real estate sign and neighbors pretending not to look. Emma is 9 now. She lives with Nathan in a smaller house in Lakewood. 6 minutes from me if I catch the lights right. She still has marigold. The blue ribbon is frayed. And one ear is permanently crooked from too many bedtime rescues. She drinks milk from any glass now, as long as she pours it herself first. We let her. Trust, once broken in a child, is not repaired by speeches. It is repaired by ordinary mornings that stay ordinary. Nathan changed jobs. Less travel. Less money too. But more breakfast. Some men need a disaster to learn the difference between providing and being present. I wish it had cost less. I wish Emma had never paid the price of that lesson. But when I see him walking her into school with her backpack over one shoulder and his coffee in the wrong hand, I know the father was always there. He just needed the lights to go out before he checked the wiring. As for me, I still think about that Tuesday. The gift bag, the late birthday, the door opening, Emma asking for regular milk like it was a luxury. People ask what I would have done if Allison had refused to let me take her. I never answer that question. Not because I do not know, because some currents are better left unnamed. What I know is this. Evil does not always enter a home shouting. Sometimes it pours something into a child's cup, wipes the counter, and tells itself it had no choice. But children remember who made them feel heavy, and they remember who showed up late with a stuffed rabbit and finally listened. So if you stayed to the end, subscribe to Dad's Cold Justice. Leave a comment for Emma, for Nathan, or for any child who needed one adult to pay attention. Sometimes subscribing is a small thing to you, but it helps this channel more than you know. And remember this, the coldest justice is not the loudest. It is the kind that waits, gathers proof, protects the innocent, and then closes every door the guilty thought they could escape through.